morning internet, and welcome back to the workshop. As you can see, we're having a bit of work on the cylinder head today. Okay, it's not floating in midair. It looks like it is, but it isn't. I've actually got it screwed down at that side there, so that I can gain access to these valves and the underside of the valves, so I can use the spring compressor. Each valve's numbered, as you can see, just to remind me which bag they go in. We'll come to that in a bit. Okay, we've got our valve spring compressor there. We've got our egg boxes with all the numbered bucket tappets in. We've got our box with all holes in ready, so when we take the valves out, each valve goes in its corresponding hole with its corresponding cylinder number, so we know where it came from when we put it back together. Okay, and the last and most important thing of all is our cup of coffee. There we go. Oh, and you can see the bags there, look, all labelled up and ready to go. Right, so without further ado then, let's get cracking. We'll do this half first, and then I'll unscrew the cylinder head, turn it round, and do that side. All bits in the numbered bags, and then we can think about giving her a good clean up. Right then, back in a mo. We're back. Right. Problems. Always something happening in the workshop. Well, as you know, I'm filming this over Christmas, and we had an issue. We had, well, a bit of an oversight on my part, I suppose you could call it. We've got the inlet valves out, which we managed to do with the big valve spring compressor. I will go through the technique used to take these valves out in a minute or two. But what I found on using this spring compressor was that the bit that goes on the to get the collets out is too big for these small motorcycle valves. So without further ado, I went on the internet and I've got myself a new laser valve spring compressor for motorcycles. And it was the only way to do it, really, because you need the smaller head to go on the smaller valves. So without further ado, I'll crack on. I'll show you the technique we use for getting these out. We'll show you how we clean them up. As you can see, I've got the inlet valves already bagged up, all clean in the relative bags, all marked, cylinder number, valve number. Okay, so see you in a minute. Okay, the dreaded valve spring compressor. Okay, a couple of things to note about this this piece of kit. The first thing is you've got a pointer at that end that locates in the centre of that valve. So when you put the valve spring compressor on, like you so, that locates in the centre there. That stops it slipping off. The second thing to notice about this thing is, with it being a screw thread, there's no quick release, so you just have to be patient with it. You just have to be patient and be careful that the edges of that don't scratch the inside of the cylinder head. Now I'll zoom in to show you what I mean when I say that. Right, when you put your compressor on, you can't see from the top, but I'll show you in a minute. That goes on your head of your valve, and then what you gently do is you gently wind that down, like so. Now what you've got to be careful of now is damaging the aluminium of the cylinder head. So what we carefully do is we carefully screw that down without damaging the cylinder head, just enough so that we can remove the collets. Right, let me show you. You can see there the two collets. So what we do with them is we've just got a little screwdriver here that's magnetic, and as you can see, you pick one out like so, put it down somewhere safe. Sorry about me wobbling, I'm doing this on my own, single-handed. And then we get the other one like so, put that down somewhere safe so it don't go missing. Without them you can't put it back together. Right, and now what we need to do is gently release that spring. Right, I'll put you back on the tripod, and then you don't get seasick watching the video. Right, so now when I release the spring, it will all come apart. Just before I take that off, I'll show you the underneath, and then you can get a good impression of how it looks. Okay, there you can see We've got the other side of the valve spring compressor in the centre of the head of the valve. So when we tighten it down onto the spring, it gives nice even pressure to release the collets. Right, so now as we release the spring, back that right off. Carefully remove it so as not to damage the aluminium of the cylinder head. And now you've got your spring and your retainer. Push down gently on centre at valve. Out pops the valve. So that's that one done. The only other thing to consider is there is a shim in the cylinder head that the spring sits on, and there is also a seal. Now I have just a tool for getting that seal out. A little hooked bendy screwdriver, and we'll just pop that down there very carefully so as not to damage the cylinder head, and ease up with it, and that should unseat the little valve stem seal. I can't get my pliers in because it's too narrow. I suppose some of you out there will be shouting at me. If you bought your son a pair of pliers specially designed for removing seals, you'll be in business. Well, I haven't got a pair, so we'll just have to make do amends sometimes. Right, and carefully with the long nose pliers. There we go, it was a bit scrappy that, but there you go, you can see the plan. And there is your valve seal. Okay, they'll be replaced. So when it comes to rebuilding, they'll all be replaced, all those seals. We won't put any old seals back. And that's what we do. Right, next thing. We've got our bag, got our valve, spring, collets, collet retainer, bucket tappet and shim. Now when you put them in the cleaning tank, the numbers come off it, so you have to put the numbers back on to make sure you get the right tappet, bucket tappet with the right valve. Okay, so they've all come out of the tank and they're done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop these in the tank. So final task, we pop our valve, which is number 1, into our box so we know where it came from. We pop all these little bits we've got here in our marked bag. These bits are clean, by the way. So we've got our 2 collets, we've got our shim and all the little bits in a little bag with the number 1 mark on it, and that little lot goes in the number 1 hole. Job done. So without further ado, let's crack on with the rest of them and see you in a bit. And there you go, that's all the valves and all the bits and pieces taken off the cylinder head. There is only one job left to do, and that is in the base of each of these housings there is a shim. It's a steel shim that the spring sits on, and these well, I'm going to take them out for fear of losing them, really, more than anything. The only problem you've got is they're stuck in the bottom with a little bit of the old engine oil in there, and I need quite a powerful magnet to get them out. So let's see how we do that then.